Hi, welcome back. I have a lot to say. First of all, I'm feeling so excited recording this episode because for the first time, I'm not in the location you expect me to be. And I think my life is making such a wonderful loop right now because one of my first memories of ever starting this podcast was in a hotel room when I came to Amsterdam for the first time, and I was staying with my dad in a hotel room, and he left for work in the morning and I was all alone, and I had the entire hotel room to myself, and I recorded a podcast in the morning, and then I left to explore Amsterdam city. And guess what? I'm in a hotel room right now, again, recording a podcast, and this must be one of the nichest experiences ever, and the ones that I do not have any negative associations with at all. For me, it's not an experience I experience a lot, but I came to another city in the country I'm currently in for the MUN conferences, and because it's quite a long ride from my place to the conferences, my family helped me to book the hotel, and I'm staying here with another delegate from another committee. She's actually a chair, and we are staying together because we also go to the same school, and I offered her because the price is the same no matter if you are staying alone or if you're staying with someone else. So that's the case right now, and she's right now out with her friends because in the city her friend lives. She hasn't seen her for so long, so they went out to dinner and they're gonna get me some food, hopefully. I already know what I want to get. I think she's gonna get me, I actually can't decide between instant noodles because I'm lucky enough to have a kettle in this hotel room, but I'm also thinking just a long baguette period, because I brought salami with me. I was hoping to buy baguette this morning, but when I arrived to the train station to get here, all the shops were closed because obviously it's Saturday, and I checked the times of shops opening on the workday, but it's weekend, so everything was closed. But the whole point is I'm all alone. We just came from the conferences. We finished at 5:30, and then because my friend is a chair, she had to stay up until 6, and then we came here. It's literally 5 minutes away from the building where we have our conferences at, so we came here and she dropped her things off and went off for dinner, and I had the privilege of having the entire room to myself. I got time to undress and listen to music and take a few pictures of my outfit, and then shower came. Oh my gosh, that was the most amazing shower I've had in so long. The hottest water was used, and the only con, which I'm not even sure is a con, that I forgot pants. So I'm wearing these mini shorts that actually are just boxers underwear on top of my underwear. So it doesn't look as if I'm wearing just underwear. And I think it's actually cunty, so I'm not gonna say this as a con. This is cunty, period. And I'm basically out of the shower, steamy and warm and clean, drank some water, and right under the covers of white sheets in the hotel bed recording this podcast. I feel honestly like Madeline from Pretty Lonesome whenever she tells stories of how she's traveling and staying in different places and recording a podcast. I feel like this is my interpretation of it. What do you mean? I woke up at 5 a.m. to get to the conferences. I was in conferences from 9:45 until 5:50, doing diplomacy, debating, and I'm really trying to move on from the certain ideas and the kind of achievements I want to achieve and make my journey less materialistic and less I want to get the best delegate award and leave. This time I'm really trying to be a social butterfly, and in some cases it works, in some cases it doesn't, but I did make friends, and actually I'm so impressed because I didn't know, and I'm not sure this is an international conference, but there are people from Greece, came all the way from Greece here, and they are staying in the same hotel as I am, and that was so funny because we ran into each other in the hallway and we got to know each other before in the conferences, just like during lunches. And this is so funny. We exchange social medias, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna invite any of them over or they're gonna invite me over, but we exchange socials, and I'm not sure how this is gonna go, and I'm not sure I'm even eager to socialize right now because I'm just so in my comfort zone right now recording this podcast and being in white sheets. I can't explain my relationships with white sheets in hotels. It's just so, I feel like a princess. I feel so clean. I feel such a, oh my word. And I actually met this amazing girl with the most stunning outfit ever. Anyone who can pull off an amazing outfit in a diplomatic setting where you have to have a dress code, you have my respect for the rest of your life, because that outfit was amazing. I'm not gonna even bother to describe because it's not gonna compare to what you were, but I approached her and I was like, oh my gosh, I love your outfit. And I swear to God, I got so much compliments on my makeup today. And I think this time I really focused on just embracing the diplomatic, I have to wear official clothes vibe. But the fact that people noticed me with my makeup, which was, I guess, the focal point of my expression, I'm the only way of my expression, was very sweet and kind of redirectional to me because I was blend in with the crowd, obviously, but the fact that my makeup stood me out was just so sweet. And I feel like she really got a lot of compliments on her outfit. So I felt like an instant connection, like, oh my gosh, like, and that's what happened. I gave her the outfit compliment, even though before that I heard already 3 people give her this same compliment, and she gave me the makeup compliment. Oh my gosh, I'm just so happy. And I briefly told her about my plans. I was like, yeah, I'm going to the hall, I'm going to record my podcast. And she called me a celebrity. Like, that felt nice. That feels so nice, even though that's very quite the opposite of what I am. But the idea of someone thinking about me this way was just very heartwarming, and it just felt, I don't want to say like what I'm doing matters because I'm doing this ultimately for myself, but it was so nice to have some sort of recognition, even though she obviously has no idea who I am. And we exchanged social medias, and she saw my Instagram, and she was very excited about my persona. So it was just amazing. I absolutely fucking adore MUNs because of how easy you can make friends. Genuinely, people just sat next to me during lunch because there was no other place to go, and in a few moments we were already having a full-blown conversation, and it's just so easy. And I really hope I have moments in my adulthood and further in life where I have environments like these where it's so easy to make friends, because I have heard like a few arguments about how hard it is to make friends once you're out of school, once you're out of university. So I really hope I will continue to be surrounded by the circumstances, by the events, and such as where it would be so easy to approach people, where I would feel approachable to people, where people would feel approachable to me, and I'll be just a social butterfly and making friends. And the summary of today's day, even though not everything and quite everything went the wrong way, I just feel like the summary of the day, being here right now, recording a podcast and sharing my thoughts, is very interesting, and not even, it's exciting. I'm so excited to be here. I couldn't wait to record a podcast. I waited for I was so excited, still am, and I guess it's just the perfect time to get into the today's episode topic, which is a straightforward yapp. Again, I'm so excited. Stop. Like, I have been thinking about this topic for some time now. Don't have any notes with me because I was debating whether to take my journal with me where I wouldn't write down my notes. But then I didn't want to take extra luggage. Plus, they gave us a notebook at MEN, which was so nice. I love merch from MEN. But this is just me freestyling and blurting out all the comments I have about DP journey, because since I'm about to or soon to graduate, I feel like I'm in a position to give advice. Obviously, not advice about the final exams, but what the journey made me realize throughout these 2 years and all the little details, what I would have done differently, what I would have done the same. If I were to repeat this journey, what my stats would be, how the journey made me feel, personal realizations that have absolutely nothing to do with school education and have everything to do with me. And all I have to do is just hope that it will resonate with someone, because I'm being authentic and I know this is the key to resonation with other people. So I'm not gonna hold your attention any further. We can begin. First thing that comes to mind, if I were to travel back in time and start DP all over again with the experiences that I have already, with the lessons I learned already, would be to not care about the grades. And I don't know why I have never ever realized this in my MYP or in my previous secondary schools, but I think it has a lot to do with the idea that DP really focuses on the idea that you have just 2 years, and it really feels like a separate form of education, because of, even though you still continue learning everything you learned in a middle school, you are approaching it from a completely new perspective. There's a different way of grading, teachers approach you differently, and it really feels like a separate system. So these 2 years were specifically emphasized for their separating quality. So what I would say is that not caring about the grades would be the biggest thing. And obviously, I'm talking black and white right now because I'm prone to thinking in extremes. So obviously it's gonna be reflected in this podcast, but I'm trying to catch myself whenever I'm doing this as much as I can to give most realistic answers, because obviously it is impossible to not care about your grades, because they do matter. The grades are the grades that give you predicted grades, so your performance matter. If you don't care about grades, there is not so much chance you're gonna achieve the results that you need for university. And unfortunately, we are living in a system where grades define what kind of university you get to. So that is the most frustrating part. So you do have to care and you do have to work for your grades at some point. But what I wish I did was experiment as much as I'm experimenting right now with study techniques, understanding myself within academic surrounding, and approaching each assessment as an exploration of my academic self. I think what I was already doing, and I've been doing this for at least since grade 5, is whenever we have an open project or a project within a topic where we have some sort of freedom of choosing what we're working on, I would always go for the theme that is most interesting to me. Even if it sounds complicated, even if it sounds like I would have to put in more hours in this project than required, but this topic sounds interesting to me, I would always pick this topic, because I realized that school system, the education is important. Whatever it gives me is important, because there are people, and specifically I want to emphasize women, who do not have the access even to the information that I think is so aka useless. But me choosing the topic within the system that I already feel passionate about helps me, one, achieve a good grade because I'm going to be passionate and I'm going to put my entire heart into it. B, achieve the bare minimum required for the school, and C, explore myself, my personal interests, and a new area of me that I might develop further passion. I actually don't have any examples, but I think I'm being clear enough. But what I'm realizing now, and what I really notice myself doing in DP2, is that I'm so exhausted. I'm choosing topics based on how easy they are rather than how excited I am to be about them. And I think there is two sides to this issue where you absolutely should and can choose the topic that you love and put more effort into it, or slash and you can choose whatever topic and no one cares, but the whole point of having an assessment is that you find out more about yourself and about your strategy throughout this process. For example, only in the mocks that I had genuinely last week, it feels like it was so long time ago, but it genuinely was last week, I had my first ever mocks. In these mocks, because I knew this is the last time teachers would be able to give me advice on how I perform on the exams, and these mocks, they do not count to anything. We were, as students, very informed that these mocks do not contribute to our grades. I had really the freedom and the peace of mind to know that even if I fail, I'm gonna be okay because it doesn't affect anything. And even if I fail, I have to try something. I better fail because I try something new rather than I fail because I followed the same strategy that I had before. And I think this approach in studying in general was sparked by my English teacher, by my literature teacher, who was giving me feedback on my essays, and she would emphasize, because I would be very, first of all, I was in a vulnerable state because I kept getting grades I was not satisfied in, and I was crying in front of her. She was like, oh my gosh, can I, like, and she was trying to support me, and I was like, does this make you feel better? And I was like, no, it really doesn't. Whatever you're saying doesn't work. And I'm not sure how genuine she was with this, but she said something with the purpose of making me feeling better. And this something was that every essay I hand in is different. The structure is different, the approach is different, and she said that no one in class is doing that, and it really made me feel better. I'm not sure if that was made up, but I do know within myself that every time I try to approach English, because I do want to get a good grade, and hello, I am a humanities girl, why the hell can I get this grade? But she would give me I would be giving different approaches, and I think she really saw this, and I hope that comment was genuine, not a coincidence. And I think that really directed me on a journey of I need to experiment more. And obviously teachers reassuring us that even if you fail, it is okay, because you have to try out new stuff and know what works. Genuinely, our psychology teacher was like, I would prefer if all of you got 3 out of 7, but you tried out new things, because the more you fail, the more feedback I will be able to give to you, and more feedback you would be able to work on, and thus more you will be able to improve for the finals. I think I'm really getting separated from the point and ahead of my point, but the whole point is choose the assessments, the tests, mocks, test weeks, whatever you want to call it, as a means of figuring out how to approach the current subject with the most efficiency. This does not mean that you should not care about your grades. This does not mean you have to try out the most stupidest strategies that you already, like, your God is telling you, you're not this kind of person, this is not going to work out for you. Actually, I mean, listening to yourself, relying on your past experiences, but not internalizing them and not defining yourself with them, but taking in new information, critically thinking about it, and using it with the current issues that you have. I think it's really important I name a few examples to make sense. For example, I've noticed, and the only reason why I was able to notice this is because I was talking through with my school mental health / psychology girly pop that was helping me out navigate my stress management at school, which is a big reminder to reach out to these people if you have. And I think most schools, or I really hope some schools, have the privilege of having this school psychologist, to reach out to them and ask for advice. Because even though, like, I didn't really need advice, I needed a safe space to talk out loud about it, it helped me so much, because in my monologues that I was giving her, I realized that I am not that kind of person who gets motivated by brushing out alone. Studying alone is okay for me, because obviously it's easier to focus when you don't have other people getting off topic and discussing something completely else. But I realized that for me, it's so much calmer. It makes me feel at peace and sane to study with someone, especially if this someone is as competitive in studying as me and I can really rely on their knowledge of the subject. And also stress management is so much easier, because if you are equally confused with your study buddy about something and you're equally crashing out, it's so much better to know that you are not alone in this, at least for me, rather than me being at home and crashing out and thinking I'm the only one who doesn't understand this topic out of my entire class. When me and my study buddy are studying together, it's so beneficial, I think, to both of us, because we are bringing in the strength of each other together, and we are approaching the issues together, the problems together, and we are really teaching each other, and just so much active learning is happening. For example, if she doesn't understand something, I'm gonna explain it to her. So that would be the famous technique. And if she doesn't understand something and is explaining it to me, it's another way of perceiving information. Rather, instead of me reading or watching a YouTube video, I have an interactive person who's making comparison that are more relatable to our current life stages. And I think that is just so much better for me. But I know people who just can't do this in an environment like this. I have a friend / classmate who cannot study in group. She's starting to crash out. She's getting very distracted. So she knows that the last thing she has to do for the exams to get good grades is studying in the group. She knows she has to go home and probably lock in. And good for her. If I experimented enough, studied with different people, was open to failures as I am right now, if I was this open in DP1, I would have figured out the me studying with a study buddy is more efficient so much more earlier. That would just prevented all of the crash outs that I had. It really shows how approaching tasks and approaching your academics from the perspective of let me figure out what works for me really works. Another thing I figured out is that Pomodoro technique fucking sucks. I absolutely hate the idea of 5-minute breaks. It does not recharge me at all. I hate it. At some point, I had I'm gonna study for 30 minutes and take a 1-hour break because I was burnt out, and that was helping me in the moment. Flashcards, absolutely love. I had a hugest moment of it's so easy to use flashcards for notes-heavy subjects like psychology, like when we just have to memorize lots of stuff. So easy, and that's what I've been doing. And that's another point, but this is why flashcards and me doing them actively is partially, or even the biggest reason for why my psychology grades are the best grades I've gotten from all of my subjects, and I think just in general. And second of all, then I would be very unsure on how to use flashcards in other subjects. For example, math, chemistry, where in chemistry you specifically have stuff to memorize, calculations, formulas to memorize, real world applications, knowledge, blah blah blah, math, science, all together. I was so confused on how to use flashcards there, and because of my inner pressure to achieve good grades, I wouldn't take a risk to try to make flashcards on this topic this time, and different kinds of flashcards with a different focus for the next topic, and then do the test and see which one did better and reflect and see which strategy works better, because I was so scared of getting the wrong grade, which is now I'm realizing was a completely wrong approach, because now looking how well flashcards worked out for me in psychology, I think it makes sense to explain my strategy with flashcards right now, because it would be hard to follow up. And I talked so much about this technique on this podcast, but I think people just don't notice and don't fucking care. So I'm gonna be talking about this until it clocks and someone be like, oh my gosh, why haven't I thought of this earlier? Basically, flashcards, there is flashcards. That's a technique on its own. But there is also an active recall, which is already doing flashcards. But to flashcards and active recall, there's another thing that I love to add is memory curve, which is a scientific representation of how quickly your brain forgets information. So we start with a 100% on the first day when you just learned something, and then over a certain period of time, let's say a month, this 100% reduces to 0, because assuming that you just did the flashcards on this first day and then forgot and did not ever come back to the flashcards ever again. So when you do come back to flashcards, every time you like repeat and do that stack of flashcards again, that would be active recall, and that would bump you up back to those 100%. So for example, you did flashcards on the first day and you are at your 100%, you remember everything. The day after that, let's say your memory drops to 50% and you can only remember 50% of information you have learned from the flashcards yesterday. So if on the second day I review my flashcards once again, it bumps up again to 100%. And the most sustainable way I figured out for me, but it's also the way the memory graph shows it to do. And this is actually what my dad introduced it to me. And I swear this is the best technique to combat memory issues, because I've always been in fear of learning new information. I am still to this day have trauma from having to memorize poetry and like tell it without like the textbook. This is the assessment that we had to do in my primary school. But now I think my memory improved so much, especially compared to DP1, because I have this the entire DP1 for the entire year, I had a consistent routine. If you look at my calendar, my Google Calendar, everything is mapped out on when I would recall what. So what I would do flashcard notes from the app called Gizmo, where you can upload your notes in any form, let it be photo notes, or you copy paste, or it's a link from YouTube, Instagram, whatever. You upload it there and AI generates flashcards for you. So there is no a process of you rewriting your notes on flashcards, which is actually ineffective. It's the opposite of active recall. It's passive recall. It's passive learning. So it does it for you and saves the time. And then you review your flashcards on the first day, which is the day you learned it. Then on the second day, then you skip the third day and you reviewed on the fourth day. Then you reviewed on the seventh day. Then you reviewed on the 14th day. From the 14th day, you add 7 more days. You reviewed on the 21st day, and then you skip a week and review on the next day, and boom, it's been a month. And usually a month is enough for me of this active recall to retain the information for a long period of time. And this made me realize that if I was using flashcards with the same consistency, because I was very consistent, I don't know where I have the time and energy, because it would be so time and energy consuming. But I guess it's also the idea that it sounds so manageable, and there's so much gratification in doing Gizmo flashcards, because like you can earn coins, you can get streaks, and like you get the click sound after you get something right. So like it is programming your brain, conditioning your brain to enjoy and release dopamine whenever you do get something right, because of gamification and how consistently I was doing it. It felt very manageable, because what I had maximum of 30 flashcards per stack, so that was totally manageable. And there was just a lot of satisfaction as well from whenever we had to come back to a topic in class and I knew I remembered it and I could use this in class time when everybody was trying to clock what topic we use. I could really use this as another pathway to active recall. In summary, I wish I would experiment more with flashcards, because you can use flashcards for math, you can use flashcards for chemistry and sciences. Obviously, it's a completely different process. I still didn't experiment as much, but I think I should. Even though I'm literally done with the syllabus, we are done with the syllabus, I think it would be nice to make concept flashcards, because that's what you can do for math. For me, it really helps to understand why this formula makes sense, and you can write this down and you would have to memorize this and make it make sense to you. So that's where flashcards can come in. Flashcards in chemistry could come in, again, concepts, so the stuff that you actually have to memorize, but also how everything functions, how everything is interconnected, what the formulas I have to realize, dissect those formulas, what do each components mean. But obviously, when for humanities like psychology, flashcards was enough for me to get a good grade. For chemistry, it would be flashcards and something else. And I'm about to move on what the something else is. Another study technique that I'm obsessed, purely because, again, I had the safe environment, a safe space, and courage and confidence, I guess, within myself, hope within myself, and a very supportive surrounding people around me that allowed me to take the risk of experimenting. I'm not saying experimenting is easy. It is getting out of your comfort zone. It is not something you are used to or you can ever get used to, because every time you do something different when you get out of your comfort zone. But I cannot stress enough of how important it is. Another technique that I actually got a lot of hate for, and I think it's quite a hot take because it is known, but a lot of people just don't use it because it's so useless. But for me, it's definitely mind maps. And I wish I did more of those in DP1. And I wish all the mind maps that I even started doing in DP2, I would collect in some sort of folder or take a picture of them in some way. Because even the mind maps that I did in DP2, which started genuinely a long time ago, most of them are lost. Most of them are torn apart because I cannot keep everything in order. So these are the two things that I wish I did, because I think for me, it's very, very, very helpful when I have the information collected in one place, and it would have saved me so much more time in my revision process if I had already all the mind maps ready, because we do cover every syllabus is organized in such nicely neated units, and information is already organized. So all I need to do is cover a unit and then dedicate an hour or two to do the mind maps, to write out all the useful information, all the formulas, all the critical thinking connections that I could make, take a picture and hide it, put it aside, and make sure that I have it. Because for me, critical thinking and making connections is so important. At some point in DP1, I thought this is the only way I can learn. And after every chemistry lesson, I would ask ChatGPT, explain this topic to me from the perspective of women's health, from the perspective of feminism, from the perspective of any topic that I felt passionate about in the moment, because I knew with these associations that I'm passionate about, that I'm actually passionate about, and the associations that are more imaginable rather than actual atoms and molecules, I'll be able to remember and retain information better. But what I think I needed to do was to just make as much mind maps as possible, because right now I do realize this is the best way for me to learn. How I realized this, right before our mocks, we had the winter break, the Christmas break, and I did a huge overview on everything we covered in math in DP1, even though obviously it was there. My grades aren't the best, but I felt like because I thought, I'm just gonna do past papers and I'm gonna be okay for the mocks. But I realized past papers are not working because I do lack the connections. I do not see the bigger picture. I'm too focused on separate little details from the bigger topics rather than seeing the actual topic and then delving into the small details as I'm approaching separate problems. So I genuinely locked in. You know how YouTube's, especially Revision Dojo on YouTube, they have playlists of entire units topic by topic. So that's what I did. I logged in for so long. I watched all the units, everything we've done up until that moment in TP2, and it helped me so much. I have the hugest mind map on my iPad, and what I love about the Notes app that I'm using on my iPad, which I'm gonna also mention in the description of this episode because I genuinely don't remember the name, is that I can take screenshots, put in the screenshot and zoom in as much as I can, and it's not gonna give it to me in pixels. It's gonna give me a proper high quality picture. So I would write genuinely pages worth of notes, take the screenshot of the page, get it resized, so I would get it so small and put it on another page, and I would just stack pages together like a collage. And obviously when you zoom out you can't really see what's written there, but then you can zoom in and you see everything, and it just makes accessibility so much easier because I have everything on one page. Everything fits nicely. All I have to do is zoom in. So that would really help me, and I did see a lot of progress. I'm not sure what grade I got in my mocks. I know that I still solved problems and made mistakes, but the way I was approaching those problems, I really felt like I at least knew what this problem connects to in a syllable, how this problem connects in a syllable, how does it connect to other topics, what are the interlinks and interplays, how this affects that. I was able to critical think within math, which I do not recall me being able to do before. So I thought this is just a very big breakthrough for me, and it is definitely worth sharing. And again, obviously, I really need to keep my shit together and make sure I have everything organized nicely and neatly, because my study buddy friend, she has all the notebooks starting from DP1. I do have them, but let me explain. My math notebook has my English notes, it has my psychology notes, and obviously it has math notes. So not entirely useful when you're trying to navigate where information is, but still, whatever. Now I just know better. And all of this, by the way, I'm really excited to use in university, because I do realize university is so much different than high school, but I think it's gonna be amazing because I think I'm really setting myself apart by reflecting on my studying and academic techniques right now, because I wouldn't repeat the same mistakes in university. And when in university I would come across, for example, material that isn't really flashcard material, I would already know how to approach it, and that I have to approach it with risk-taking and open-mindedness, because that's the lesson that I learned from my DP years. And just a little bit of advice here and there. I shouldn't have cared about DP1 test week. DP2 test week, yes, it mattered. I should have cared about that, and I cared about both. But because I cared so much about DP1 test week, I really burned out for DP1 test week 2, and obviously I just burned out. And I'm not saying I didn't have progress, because I did have tons of progress, but my mental state was horrible, and it genuinely led me to a very important journey of my life, because I don't think without this experience I would be able to understand and learn the lessons I think I understand now, because I burned out so much. I'm very actually passionate to talk about this burnout because it means so much to me, and I think it's very important to spread the awareness, because this burnout lasted from spring of 2025 until New Year's 2025-2026. It was not as if this entire time I just had this depressive episode and I saw no good things in life. It was ups and downs. It would be weeks of I'm okay and weeks I'm not okay, and obviously I would be surrounded by my loved ones, by my friends, so it would not everything would be great, but the times I had to stay alone by myself, or the times where I would stress academics within myself, it would really become evident how exhausted I am by academics and how I can't keep pushing through. And that was just a very hard period in my life that I would never want to come back to. And it was also a very ironic period in my life, because during that period I did not have any energy at all, and all I knew that I needed to do was study, because that's my obligation. So all I did was study, and that's the promise I made to myself in the beginning of DP1, that I'm not going to become those kind of people who lose personality, or who put their personality and their persona on pause and just never do anything about it and just pick it up back after they graduate. I wanted to be the person who continues DP1 and DP2 while developing their persona and charisma and character on the side besides academics, because academics shouldn't be my entire life. I don't want it to be my entire life. I value academic. I love learning. I love studying, but I don't want this to be the only thing about my personality. But nevertheless, I got into that trap. I had a period of time where most of the times all I would be doing is just studying, which was very frustrating. And what helped me get out of that state was my best friend, and I already addressed this issue here. I already addressed her on this podcast and how much she helped me out, but again, thank you so much for being there for me, even though it was not a direct, let's talk about how everything is going, how you can fix this, but just being in her presence really, really cured me and healed me. So healing that part of me in some way, even though I'm not sure that the healing is done and complete because it's always an active process, really made me realize that the place I've been in the spring, summer, up until winter 2026 was not a place I want to ever be again, and I never want to expose myself to a risk of ever ending up in that place. And what that place was a burnout that just extended for such a long period of time, because how unforgiving and hateful and hardworking in the most toxic sense I was towards myself. And now I want to emphasize the role my psychology teacher played in this, because she really, really went out of her way to support me. And even though the advice she was giving me genuinely wasn't clocking in, because I didn't have the experiences that would help me realize what she is talking about, but now that I had those experiences, I'm looking back and I realize what her advice actually meant, because obviously I understood what she's talking about, but it wouldn't click. Now it clicked so perfectly, because she kept stressing that I have to figure out what my active ways of recharging. And at the time of my burnout, it was very hard for me to imagine what those ways could be, because the associations I had was that I have to go out and work out. Go out, I mean like go to the gym or something like this and work out, because I knew that sport is an active way of recharging, but I genuinely did not have energy to do so. So even though she put so much energy and effort to support me, it wouldn't go anywhere until I got the experiences that I got it, especially because it got so bad with a burnout. And my best friend was there for me, that I was able to finally clock it and have this fear built in within me that I never want to go back there. And I feel so happy being free of that burnout. I'm so happy doing the active rest things. They make me feel balanced, which was, if you haven't yet understood, the goal of my DP journey. That was something that was my priority, to develop balance within myself, to not be those kind of people who lose themselves to just academics and become just the academic weapon. I want to be an academic weapon, and I want to have a personality. I want to have hobbies. I want to graduate and say that throughout my DP years, I tried multiple things I realized that I was not good at, and I improved multiple things I realized that I don't want to do at all. I have no passion for them. Multiple things I tried and failed, multiple things I tried and succeeded. I wanted to have those experiences. And my first step was my best friend. When me and her were having deep talks, me realizing how present I felt during them and how recharged I felt to socialize with people. And my New Year's resolutions, which are very, very centered around the idea of female friendships, led me in a direction of making sure I care about my female friends, and I check in constantly, and I make constantly in a healthy way, and I make sure that I am updated on their life and how they're doing. This really led me to experience so much more socializing and just being surrounded by people, and being surrounded by people, especially by people who care about you and who you enjoy being surrounded by, made me feel so present. That was recharging, because what I realized is my definition of active rest is when in the moment I forget that time exists. I forget about all of my problems, and I just enter this flow state. And this is the exact words my psychology teacher told me. But back then in DP1 they wouldn't clock. Now they're clocking so much because I had the experiences I needed to have. And finally, what those experiences were is volleyball, MUN, and the finalizing part that made me realize all of this I'm talking about right now is going out with my friends and having the quality time together and having those deep talks and just paying attention to each other. So for example, the first time I had the realization was on my first ever volleyball game. It was my first ever volleyball game, and I was asked by my teammate, "Oh, are you nervous? Are you nervous?" And I was like complying because everybody was nervous. So I'd be, yeah, I'm nervous, but I really wasn't. I was so fucking excited to be on the field. I remember stepping on the field, waiting for the ball to get onto our side of the net, and I couldn't suppress the smile on my face. I kept grinning. I kept smiling so hard because I was just so fucking excited to do the sport that I love with people who understand me to some extent, who I can be supported by in the game, who I can rely on in the game. And in the moment of the game, I had this moment of, wait, I'm playing volleyball. And because on my way to the game, to my ever first game, I was worrying about math or something like studies. And amidst the game, I realized I don't care about math right now. I don't care about school right now. I don't care about university. I don't care about anything. I care about winning this set. I care about not even winning. I care about playing this set. I care about what I'm doing right now. And oh my gosh, that was the best experience ever. And then I had a similar experience at MUN where I just got so passionate and excited about representing my country and its stances. And I took a very personal approach of making sure that by the time the conference ended, this country had improved situationship in their region. They had the support they needed. They had the laws they needed. I made it my personal responsibility to make sure that country had received those opportunities, had received the help from the international community. And I know that MUN is just a model of UN, but to me it feels so real. And that's why never those funky clauses that are supposed to be silly and fun never make sense to me. And because all I want to do is debate on serious topic, because I know to some extent, even if it's just model UN, it is important. It is important for us to, first of all, talk about it. It is important to me to educate myself on it, to become more aware, to see other people's interpretations, to see other people's stances, to debate, to develop new skills, to be surrounded by this conflict. It's so fucking important to me. I just felt very fucking present. And finally, just being surrounded by my very ambitious, creative, and so open-minded friends who are open-minded to new views and experiencing my life through the experiences I'm telling them, and me trying to do the same, because I'm not an ideal friend and I'm learning, but I think I'm getting so much better in friendship, especially in female friendship, and just being a social person who accepts social interactions as a positive thing in their life really made me realize that this is the way I recharge. These are the moments that I feel so in a flow state. I don't notice time passing and I don't care about anything but this. And what I realize this makes me feel is also balanced in a way that I see how school is just one part of my life. And at some point, it wouldn't matter anymore, even though its implications and the consequences of how my school life will forever affect my life. I know to some extent it wouldn't matter anymore. And when I am in this flow state and I'm realizing that there is just so much more to life than just grades and tying your identity to just grades, because I could also be tying my identity to grades and to how I enjoy myself in volleyball and what I do at MUN, what impacts I produce there, how I express myself, how I am able to create a meaningful conversation with my friends. all of this ultimately makes me, and it is a very toxic trait within myself that I still have to fix. Or at least approach, acknowledge. It's not like everything has to be fixed, but I do want to stop tying my personality and my identity just to my grades, because I am more than my grades. And it is very, very repressing in a way, oppressive, maybe even a better word. I'm not sure it describes the situation perfectly, but because I am so obsessed with tying my grades to my identity, it's hard for me to see other people more than their grades. It's hard for me to fully appreciate other people's ambitions and talents and hard work in areas that are not school, because I'm just so focused that school is the most important thing ever could be. And it is, should be, because this is like the biggest thing I have right now, but I just want to choose it not to be. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to care, because I will always care and I want to care, and I'm just doing so much more than caring right now. I'm obsessing and I shouldn't be. And I would rather obsess over other things, even though it doesn't matter what I obsess over. Obsession can be toxic, and this is just the trait that I want to address somehow and take risks of improving or seeing how I can approach it differently, seeing how it can be different, seeing how my life can be different. And I know that by changing this perspective, I will be able to see people around me so differently to what they are right now to me. Okay, and I really think this is it, although I'm sure it's not. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be editing this and I will be like, oh my gosh, I missed this point, I missed that point. I already know that I want to stress more just how ideally everything feels right now. I really love the idea of diplomacy and doing it actively and contributing actively to something so important as issues around the world. And I genuinely, obviously I have a preference of, I love and I would absolutely be honored to defend women's rights around the world, but whenever you get a topic assigned at NUN, I feel like this is just a new opportunity for me to learn more about the world, to get a better understanding about the topic, about the issue, about the conflicts, about the debate. And I really don't mind. I've never ever felt like a topic could be boring. Like, oh, it's so boring to talk about this. This is so basic. No, because there's so much to unpack. That every conflict and every misunderstanding and everything that happens politically and diplomatically. So I just wonder if in the future I would have a moment of actually staying in a huddle because I actually had a proper UN conference of something among this similar stuff, and then doing creative work like this. I actually also want to share an interest of mine. I haven't had a proper sketchbook, I think, since I was in grade 5, maybe 8 or 7, but it's been a long time. And I am obsessed with abstract art, and I have my own way of approaching it, which makes me feel seen within myself. And I absolutely love whenever I do get to do abstract art. And recently I saw this Pinterest image of someone having a sketchbook, and instead of having representative drawings there of, like, I don't know, portraits, landscapes, they have pure abstract art, page after page, and it inspired me so much. And I can't wait to get home to start doing this, because I think this is really the way I will be able to get back into art. And oh my gosh, I'm just so excited to do that. So I wonder if in the future I would have actually a moment where I would be for real traveling and staying in hotels like this, like I am right now, but it would be more for real, even though it's a very bad trait to not count this as a real experience, because it really is. And I'm just so happy and so excited to be here right now at this point in my life. And I'm very, very grateful. And I acknowledge all the fears that I have about the future and the past and the present. But I choose to focus on now, I think, even though I'm literally going to stop this podcast and go back to and start journaling. Again, I didn't bring my journal, so I'm going to journal in the notebooks that we got during MUN. So excited about that because I'm gonna rip that page off and glue it into my journal and it would make it more junky. We also got stickers and we got a tote bag and a notebook and a coffee cup. So cute. Can't wait to use that stuff. So I'm very excited about that. And yeah, I just wonder if future me will be looking down on this moment and thinking, wow, this is I don't know why I'm measuring my life in the hotels I've stayed in terms of hotels where I feel very independent and like I'm doing my own thing. And both of these times, first time when I was visiting Amsterdam for the first time and this time is me doing this podcast. So maybe this is synchronicity and it means a lot. And I just feel like a very, very good version of myself right now and today, and I choose for reality to be this way. And I'm gonna see you next week. So excited and so grateful for you to choose to listen to this podcast out of everything you could have done, not with the intent or hint that you are having probably your responsibilities and you're choosing to be here listening to me. I am so grateful that you chose to take care of yourself and allow some deep thought to come into your brain and maybe reflect after this, have a little journal session if you don't have to rush anywhere just yet. So grateful that you choose to spend your time this way because time is the only limited currency we have. And I'm just so grateful that you chose to spend your currency here. And that is just a compliment to my entire persona, to my heart, to my soul, and hope you enjoyed and hope you're gonna enjoy more. See you next week. Bye.